Hello, I'm Robert, and I'm here for Doomsday Debunked, where we fact-check the stories that very scared people get scared by. So I'm just going to, today I'm going to try to explain to you what kind of a place, what kind of a paper the Daily Express is. It absolutely fills, if you go and search for NASA asteroid warning, it's absolutely filled all the way. The first 100 results are all Daily Express. Last time I checked. And then you get a few from International Business Times. There might be a few in those first 100 International Business Times, but for instance, the last time I looked, the first 10 were all Daily Express, and a typical page of results, even you go quite deep, even you go very deep in, then it's still all Daily Express. They basically spammed Google News with NASA asteroid warnings, and they're all fake news. And because NASA has never done an asteroid warning. And so people who look at one of these stories and they think, oh, there's an NASA asteroid warning, they go and search in Google News. They'll just find loads and loads of things by Daily Express. There's nothing on NASA about it because they never gave a warning. So you're never going to get to the NASA site. No astronomy sites. Eventually, if you get to about page 11, 12, I think it was 13 last time I checked, that's the first point at which you get a proper astronomy site. And that's just saying that there isn't a NASA warning. So, then I want to look, if you've clicked through to any of these results, there's a quite high chance you've seen this graphic. Daily Express repeats it over and over again, it's very common. And it claims that these 4 asteroids are could hit Earth. So this one, they just make stuff up. That's the 214 JO25. It is the name of an asteroid, but it was never in the risk list. Nobody ever considered it at any risk of ever hitting Earth. It would count as a potentially hazardous object, asteroid. If you've come across those terms, that is a technical term, and what that means is that there is a possibility that it could hit sometime in the next 20 million years. So astronomers have a different kind of perspective on this than most people. 20 million, or maybe even more than that, but usually Earth clears its orbit in 20 million years, but only a few percent actually get hit by it. Most of the asteroids will actually end up hitting the Sun or Jupiter or escape from the solar system. They'll just be thrown out by Jupiter's gravity and just go away. And only a few percent actually eventually hit one of the terrestrial planets, including Earth. And so and then there are also asteroids that count as being potentially hazardous asteroids, which have no chance of hitting Earth. There's such as the Trojan, which means that's a very stable place in Earth's orbit. It could just stay there indefinitely. And we only know one so far, I think. But because the definition of potentially hazardous asteroid is that it's depending in terms of its distance from Earth's orbit. That's just how it's defined. It's defined if it goes within a certain distance of Earth's orbit, then it automatically gets this label, no matter what its future is. It's just a technical term. And so anyway, so back to these. So they would be potentially hazardous. I'm not even sure if they are. I think they might be. Depends how close they get. But they have never been considered as risk. And they put there, if you look very closely, so I'll come down, I'll look at the details in a little bit and explain those in a bit. Never been a risk hit, never been a risk hit. That's half a century away and easy to deflect, and far fewer to 160 years away, easy to deflect, and they're both expected to miss. And these just never was any possibility of them hitting. And now, so this is just to show what's typical, that's a typical Daily Express story. And this is the kind of a paper that Google News is spamming you with. And where it says, could this strange corpse be the world's first ever proof that aliens have visited Earth? And this little thing, and if you maybe can't see that image, but it's a little shriveled up little creature that looks like it's got a human head, and it's got a couple of wings, and it looks very like a fairy, a mythological fairy. And obviously just a bit of plastic creature or something has been put in a jar of water to make it look like it's being preserved or something. And that's nothing. That's the sort of thing it is. And so now let's look at this. So let's look at those asteroids. So, oh yes, yes, I thought I had a big version of this. I just want to have a look at this. So it gives those dates there. Poverty 1 in 83,000, year 2027. And this says poverty 1 in 625, year 2040. Those years and those probabilities are just made up by a journalist. They don't come from anywhere. I'll show that to you. Because look, this is the first one. And where will it be in that year? It was 2027 when they claimed it would hit. It's going to be there. This is Jupiter's orbit. That's Mars's orbit. Way out beyond Jupiter. Way out away from us, beyond Jupiter. And it's moving like that. And through the whole year of 2027, it's got a very long orbit. So it's got a very long year. And that's as far as it gets in 2027. It's as far as it could possibly be from the central solar system in its orbit during that year. So it obviously never, at any point, even had a close flyby for that date. They just took a random asteroid from the tables and they just made up a date and they made up a probability. Just made up some numbers. That's all they did. Here's another one, 2014 AG5. Now this one is they claim it's going to hit in 2040 and they give a probability for that. So that's where it is at the start of 2040. A bit later, I think that's May or something, it crosses Earth's orbit, but Earth is the other side of the Sun. Eventually, it's the closer it gets when it's close to Mercury, and that's a vast distance away. And this is the only one of those two. The other one didn't have any close approaches. Nothing comes to close approach. This does have a couple of close approaches, but they're hardly very close. So this is in 2023, and that's 2055. And so as I say, there's no way it's a mistake. And yeah, I give the number. Oh, I thought I'd worked it out. I did work it out. What have I done with that? Oh, I know. I've put this on my. I put this on the. I'll bring up my Science 2.0 thing. I've got an up-to-date version of my Science 2.0 blog, which I've got. Let's do my content. I wonder if it's in that list down there now. Big asteroid warning. Yeah, so here I worked it out. So the closest of these two, it's about 53.4 million kilometers away. And put that in perspective, travelling at the speed of a 747, which is the fastest commercial jet, would take about 5¾ years to travel a distance, travelling day and night without stopping for refuelling. Then when this one is at its closest in 2023, because space is really, really vast, and this doesn't get very close. It's only it's more than a third of the Earth's orbit away, distance from the Sun away. So that one that they've told you is going to hit Earth, and it is nowhere near in 2040. And in 2023, which is the closest it gets this century, then it's so far away that you would be travelling day and night for 5¼ years at the speed of a 747 to travel the same distance if you went round and round Earth constantly non-stop. So that is these are the people that you're getting scared by. Actually, that's that typical Daily Express story. And this is one of the most famous of the same band of journalism. It's a different paper, The Sun. And you see this thing, 50,000 point bingo and things. And it's all about, they sometimes Mystic Meg and stuff like that. And they say, Freddie Starr ate my hamster. Comic put a live pet in sandwich, says Beauty. And it goes on with all the details in the story about allegedly there was a bit of a tiff involving her talking to this chap, Freddie Starr, and he just went out in a rage and put her hamster in a sandwich and ate it. And this is totally made up. No hamster was harmed in this story. And that's the sort of thing that this is. That's one of their most famous stories. That's yeah, that's a famous story by the Sun. So yes, I've talked. I have another talk about it, but I thought I'd just do another one just about this. That's about another asteroid. It's how people just about this thing. Just that's what's scaring you. These people. Hey, there's nothing there. I mean, and I get people, and then they get picked up because they look. So I'll show you it in Google News. So I've done that in the other one, but that's towards the end of it. So you mightn't get. That's easy to find. So that's a asteroid. If you look in Google News for warning, that's what you get. We've got the Snopes debunk. So that's very rare to have an actual debunk there. So this is the asteroid that's expected to hit around at Christmas, which I've got a separate thing about, and they've got their debunk there now today. So that's very rare. This one actually has gone up there as a debunk, so that's good. And you scroll down, and they have the where is it? Yes, they heard from. They contacted the Centre of Paul Chodas of the Centre of Near Studies, who's the one who makes the asteroid table, and he said, no, there's nothing unusual or dangerous about this asteroid. So the Daily Express claimed that it was going to hit Earth on the 20th of December. It's simply making a closer push to Earth. Astronomers have been observing this asteroid's position for 13 years. We know its orbit very accurately. We can predict its close approaches accurately for the next 200 years, and we know with certainty that it cannot hit our planet. And then you've got all these. If you go and look at the news, maybe that one will be on the news in the news tab. No, it didn't get up to the top. Oh yes, there we are. But no, that might be the same thing. So there's got one Snopes article there, but monstrous asteroid screeching at 17,000 miles, asteroid warning, London high-sized asteroid barreling, and you can tell. So if you get these things like screeching and barreling, then that's quite a good clue. So yes, is it expected? And it's a shame they don't actually say in the title that it's not going to, because then you could see it on the page. When I'm doing my debunks, I make it very clear in the title that it's not going to hit, so people don't panic, they just see straight away. Asteroid terror, asteroid horror, asteroid alert, asteroid warning, asteroid alert, closest flyby scientists panic, asteroid fears. So you see that's all sensationalism. Asteroid warning, asteroid alert. That's almost fails to detect another asteroid before it roars. Tracks, they're very tracks hazardous. Asteroid skimming, mammoth space rock. So you can get a swarm of asteroids flying. So you can get an idea of the type of thing it is a little bit from the title, but people don't soars. It's got all these very emotive words, never ending, real life Twilight Zone planet. That's not actually an asteroid. Colossal, monster rock destruction, mind blowing time scale. So that's the kind of thing that the Express does, and it's very effective. It's got them, and they've totally filled it up to. See, still Daily Express. There's nothing else there except Daily Express. And even if you go to something like that, I mean, there never were any NASA things. You've still got a fair number of the International Business Times. Is also does quite a lot of ones. So that's the very last page, and you get a few that aren't sensationalist press, and then scattered between the others. A gigantic asteroid that could kill millions, a small chance. That's Metro Magazine, they're another one. But it's Daily Express. This one is, there we are, we've got our Sky. Sadly they've gone a little bit that way with that one, but that's not they do say it's an asteroid strike simulation, and this scared people at the time, but it wasn't a real asteroid. They're preparing for asteroid impacts, asteroid defense, and that's what that's about. So it was just a simulation exercise for this very rare possibility that an asteroid might hit Earth. But they, for some reason, they thought they'd make it a bit more realistic, and ESA did a series of tweets as the asteroid, as they simulated this exercise going forward into the future. Then and the simulated asteroid and what they would do to evacuate. They nearly all. It's a U.S. exercise, although the U.S. is obviously only a small part of the globe. But whenever they do this exercise, you can guarantee that part of it is going to hit the US right at the end of the exercise, because they have to test the systems in the US to respond to these asteroids. And it's usually the same scenario. They have a big asteroid, they knock a bit off it, and they try and deflect it, but the deflect doesn't quite work. A little bit of it gets knocked apart, and they're still heading for Earth, because that lets them do all the stages of what they might have to do if there's a big asteroid, the deflecting, and the medium-sized asteroid, and deflecting, and then actually testing the last little bit of something hitting Earth. So they have to have that in there somewhere. So it's just a drill. That's just a drill. And in actuality, it's extremely unlikely that probably be thousands of years before we actually have an asteroid that has a chance of hitting a city. Because if you think about it, there hasn't been any such for all of recorded history. They're obviously very rare. And if you look at the numbers, so we get them nearly every century, but they are small ones, but they generally will fall into the sea, or they fall into a desert or a remote place or forest, because that's what most of Earth is. So anyway, yeah, I've got links about that at the end of mine, and I think keep this short, so I've said enough. If you've got if you go to my page, yeah, I'll probably link to this one. Then at the end of it, I've got this bit. Yeah, so the Egyptians had built an asteroid detection telescope, and this is just for the sake of visual memory. Obviously, you wouldn't build it on top of the pyramids, but suppose the Egyptians had built a telescope on top of the pyramid, then it would still be detecting things. They would have been able to give some alerts. For instance, at the time of Chelyabinsk, then if they had lots of telescopes around the world that they built back then, they weren't very far. Their technology wasn't so far away from ours. If they'd had the Industrial Revolution at the time of they did the pyramids, they weren't very far. They had a few little bits of mathematics that they hadn't got yet. They didn't know to understand zero. They didn't understand unknowns and equations, and they had to develop calculus. Imagine if they had a few extremely bright Egyptian mathematicians who developed those tools, and a few very bright so people doing the science side as well, the equivalent of Newton and stuff there. And who knows? Then we might have had telescopes thousands of years ago. And so then, if we had, then they would still be waiting for the first one that needed to be detected. They would just be doing warnings up until today. They would have warned, they would save 3 reindeer herders in Tunguska in 1908. They would have saved a lot of people from being hurt quite badly by flying glass in Chelyabinsk, by just warning them and saying, watch out, this asteroid is coming your way. Keep away from flying glass. And protect yourself from flying glass, keep away from windows, and that would have saved an awful lot of injuries. So, and if any asteroid does end up coming and is headed for an urban area, and if they predict it, then we can evacuate it. And that's what those FEMA drills are all about. They do the drill of, suppose they're going to hit Central Park in New York, for instance, which I think was where the last one, simulated one, went, then you'd have to evacuate New York, or a large part of it. And so, but we know how to do this. We do this for hurricanes. And by the way, you keep on getting people saying, oh, it's all covered up. There really are asteroids, there are loads of asteroids, all these asteroids in the sensationalist press, they're not just made up the sensationalist press, they're real asteroids and the governments are hiding them. But then they never hit us, so it's quite strange that they should be hiding fictional things that never hit us. And but the thing is, the governments don't do that sort of thing. That's just from movies. If you think about a hurricane, for instance, then the government doesn't tell or sort of switch off the television whenever weather forecast comes on. If they hear the word, is he about to warn about hurricane? Off goes the television, or change to another channel. Put other programming on. We can't have the weather being forecast because there's a hurricane coming, and we've got to hide the hurricanes. They don't do that. Indeed, it's the other way around. The governments are doing their very best to get people to evacuate, and then the rather stupid people who don't listen to the government have their storm parties and all get drunk and sit in having a party while the hurricane goes over and they're risking their lives. So it's the people who not evacuating are the problem, not the governments. The governments, they do the very best they can to get the people to move. So it's a very daft idea, but it makes a good plot point in a movie. But those movies are not based on reality. It's just to build up tension, and people over a series of previous movies have got habituated to the idea that in this movie world, then governments hide things from the people when they know that people are in danger. They don't let them know. But that doesn't happen in reality. Not about disasters. It just never happens. And it can't, and you can't do anything. You can't do it anyway because it's amateur astronomers around the world are involved in the searches, and the professionals from many different countries collaborate to do this. And the Centre of Near-Earth Object Studies was set up very much like a weather forecasting system. It was set up by the US government, and with a big fund from the US Congress. And so, I mean, that's what they're directed to do, and they would be failing their job. They'd be out of their job the next day if they didn't tell people about an asteroid that was headed our way, because that's what they're being paid to do. And all the congressmen, people who voted them in, I mean, that's why they voted for the money for this, to protect us from asteroids. So you don't need to worry about anyone trying to hide anything like this. They're doing what they can to find them, and if there ever is a real asteroid warning, then you will be told. Everyone will. It'll be on the news. And so I have made this. If you be on my Sentry table, this is my non-techie version of the Sentry table, because I wish the. So all I've done, if you go to the techie numbers, they're very hard for most people because they're just about massive numbers. All I've done, see those zeros there? Those zeros mean no hazard. That's just what they mean, it's a code. No hazard. So I just changed them to no hazard there. That's all I've done. If NASA were to go there and change all those zeros to no hazard, then this table would immediately become much clearer to people who aren't used to things being in codes. But for mathematicians, a zero is a much more sensible way to do it. So that's what you should see. If you look at that, compare mine with that. Mine is saying exactly the same thing. And you can double check that if you don't believe what I'm saying. Show legend. And then you go down, and then you've got to. So there's this really quite hide it away as to what it means. So you have to go there and say Torino scale, and then you go down here. I think if you click on that, I don't think it doesn't actually do anything. It just changes the way it's sorted or something. But if you go down here, you've got to show legend, which is not very obvious. Then you go down to because if you have high legend, I mean it's not very obvious. Where is it? Show legend. Table column descriptions. Show legend. And the API document. It's not kind of very obvious, really, to people who are not used to how these sort of things work. It's very obvious if you expect it to work like this, but people don't. Then you've got to go right down to the very last description. It says maximum detected hazard rating according to Torino impact scale. So you've got to know that you need to click on that. And then once you've done all that, then you get the Torino scale, and there you see 0 means no hazard. And there's so many steps in between to that 0. You don't just click on the 0 and it says no hazard and it takes you here. You've got to see that 0. You have no idea what it means. It just says Torino scale. You don't even know that column is the one you need to look up. And then you've got to click on legend. You've got to click on show legend. Then you've got to go right down to the bottom of the page, and you've got all this stuff which would immediately put someone off if they had the coloration. Oh yes, the coloration. And it says the colour of the table gives a rough estimate of the severity of the threat. You've got to read through all that, and then white to grey colours indicate a Torino scale of 0. They don't really explain what a Torino scale. They don't say or undefined, but what is a Torino scale? And they don't actually explain. You see? Light blue colour indicates a small object. White to grey colours indicate a Torino scale of 0 or undefined. But what is a Torino scale? You've got to remember that someone who's reading that has never seen the word Torino scale before, and I don't know what it means. You know, it could be, I don't know, it could be, it could be the square root of the cube of the diameter of the asteroid or something. You could, I just made that up for nothing. I don't think that means anything. But as far as the reader is concerned, that could be just any mathematical thing. You have no idea what the Torino scale is. So the coloration means that it's, so if we now look at the Torino scale, if you know what the Torino scale is, then that makes sense. So it's 0 is no hazard, 1 is, so if it was, goes up to normal, then what that means is that the colour of the table row will turn green if it goes up to normal. That's what that legend means. And then it'll go yellow if it reaches meriting attention by astronomers, and then threatening it go orange, and red means a certain collision. So what that legend really means is that you just need to glance at this table, and if the first row is yellow, is white or blue, then there's no hazard. You don't even need to read the number. And if it is yellow, then it's meriting attention of astronomers, but it's still nothing you need to worry about as the general public. We've got to wait and see what we find out more. It's probably soon go back to green. Yeah, green is normal, and then orange means that at that point, then the general public will be monitoring it very closely, and the people giving you progress reports about what the situation is. But it's still not certain to hit. In fact, indeed, it's still expected to miss. And it's only when it gets to red that you know it's going to hit. And so you don't even need to do anything. Just go to this page, and is the first row red or orange? And if it isn't, then it's fake news. But I've done it here. Just my table just says no hazard. It makes it all a bit clearer. That's that finished.